shot you in the head? You all right?
Horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA. Oh! You just shut the fuck up! You okay? I'm good.
Hey, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rukakwadash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, recall you're from the GMS Orlando camp, coming at you with another impromptu lesson, another news and prophecy. All right, and as you all know by now, all right, the riots and the protests that are taking place in Los Angeles are starting to intensify. All right, as you've seen in the clips that I played before this lesson, all right, the protests and the riots are becoming more and more violent and aggressive, which is a part of prophecy. You know, and another big part of prophecy is the fact that this sedition is not going to stay as one isolated event. You know, eventually this same sedition and riotous spirit is going to trickle down and consume the rest of America, Babylon the Great. And we'll read that in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. You know, but this sedition has gotten the ball moving on a whole lot of prophecy. You know, because as a result of this sedition, families are being torn apart, jakes are being put to death. All right, Marines are being deployed. All right, so over 700 Marines are being deployed to LA, which very well could lead to martial law, which is another prophecy. All right, and out of martial law, we know that Esau is going to try to come with that order out of chaos. All right, that order out of chaos in the form of the RFID microchip to try to bring some normalcy back to society. All right, so we're living in some very beautiful times, man. You know, the Lord truly is speeding up the days and the times, and we're witnessing it by the prophecies that are taking place. You know, and I tried to screen record this lesson, but I believe I don't have enough storage on my phone, so it wouldn't let me go past a certain point. You know, so I'm gonna try to read these articles, and I'll post the articles that I'm reading in the comment section, you know, Lord willing, so you all could get it for yourself. But I want to get through a couple of articles, and we're going to grab a couple of precepts. Lord willing, is edifying unto you elect. All right, because these riots are going to lead to an even greater sedition. All right, and it already is, because you have a nationwide protest scheduled for June the 14th or June 15th. All right, called No Kings protest. All right, protesting it's basically sedition. Another protest of sedition. All right. Against the American government and against Trump and his authority. You know, so hey, the ball is moving, man. And like our elders and apostles have said before, prophecy has a snowball effect. You know, it starts off small, but then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's out of control. All right, and we're approaching those times, all right, where prophecy is going to be it's going to be popping off at a very beautiful rate, man. You know, but I have this first article here from Military Times, and it's entitled 700 Marines Deployed to LA to Respond to Immigration Protests. All right. Oh, and as a caveat, I want to also mention that, you know, this crackdown on deportation isn't just affecting the Northern Kingdom tribes. It's also affecting Southern Kingdom as well. A lot of Levites, a lot of Benjamites are being snatched up and deported as well, which is why this isn't just going to stay as an isolated event in LA. All right, as the crackdowns on deportation continue to intensify, all right, it's going to spread across the whole of America. As more families get separated, as more and more people get put to death, these things are going to spread. You know, the sedition and the riotous spirit is going to spread around America, Babylon the Great, to the point where it's going to be uncontrollable, and Esau is going to have to send out more and more troops, and he's going to have to call in more troops, Gurgle troops, whatever the case may be, all right, to bring some order back to their society. But this is from Military Times, and the article is entitled 700 Marines deployed to LA to respond to immigration protests. And it reads, about 700 Marines have been ordered to deploy to Los Angeles to help National Guard members respond to immigration protests. The U.S. Northern Command announced Monday as California prepared to sue President Donald Trump over his use of Guard troops to confront the protesters. The Marines are assigned to 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division, based out of Twin Palms, California. U.S. Northern Command said in a release, the Marines will integrate with the National Guard troops who are protecting federal personnel and federal property in the greater Los Angeles area. U.S. Northern Command said the deployment was first reported by CNN. The California Attorney General said his president's actions have trampled the state's sovereignty. We don't take lightly to the president abusing his authority and unlawful mobilizing California National Guard troops, which a lot of these people don't understand that in the case of martial law, the president basically has the president basically becomes a dictator. You know, the president can basically become a dictator under martial law, which is exactly what is getting ready to take place as these riots intensify. All right, because best believe you, as these riots intensify across America as a whole, eventually there's some order that has to be brought to this place, which is going to come through martial law, which is going to make DJ Trump that dictator that everybody's trying to protest against. You know, which is going to give him precedent, you know, to bring forth that MOTB, Lord willing. But it says, we don't take lightly to the president abusing his authority and unlawful mobilizing California National Guard troops. State Attorney General Rob Bonta told reporters he planned to seek a court order declaring that Trump's use of the Guard was unlawful and asked for a restraining order to halt the deployment. All right, now, let's read here in 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter. I'm going to start at the first verse. Artist says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. All right, and this is something that we're experiencing now. All right, the words of the Lord being faithful and true. All right, they've withstood the test of time, and now, through the spirit and the power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, all right, we're living these prophecies out. We're living these things out. We're living the words of the Lord. All right. It says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And like it says in Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, all right, all these things were for an appointed time and season. All right, and right now we're in that appointed time and season where the Lord is saw fit to bring these end time prophecies to pass, man. It says, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Right, we're not worried about the unbelief of these people because we can see the words of the Lord manifesting. We don't have to go back and forth with a nigga or a Christian, because the words of a nigga and a Christian are void of knowledge. They're vain. They have no force behind it. But we understand the words of the Lord have force behind it. All right, and the words of the Lord are forging reality as we know it. It says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. And right now, the sword, death, and destruction are heavy upon the earth. Excuse me, and eventually that famine is going to set in play too. We're going to jump down to the point. Verse 14, it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. All right, so it said that one people shall stand and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword is the gun or any killing instrument. All right, and it says there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. Now, the definition for sedition, Salakia, I'm excited. All right, from the etymology online, it says a rebellion, an uprising, a revolt. It says a concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority, a violent strife between factions, civil disorder, a dissension, rebellion, a separation. All right, and what's happening now is a very big rebellion taking place here in America, Babylon the Great. And what are they rebelling against? The rulers that be. They're rebelling against their princes. They're rebelling against their princes and judges. Like it says in verse 16. It says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. And that's exactly what a rebellion is arising against. Their kings and their princes. All right, their presidents. All right, those who control the resources. All right, as the wisdom of the Lord is going forth, people have identified the source of the problem. And are starting to rebel against the source of the problem. And they're not regarding their kings nor princes no more. Nobody gives a damn about what the president has to say. You know, what the elites have to say. Because their families are being torn apart. Their husbands, their men are being put to death. You know? Their men are being put in internment camps, detainment centers, you know, and forgotten. So the sedition is rising. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And this is martial law. All right. Eventually, they're going to desire to go, in which there's already a curfew in Los Angeles now. They've set a curfew for the people, and they're arresting anybody that goes past that curfew, just like they did in 2020 when the whole number 19 came down. All right. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And also, they also have a real ID that's going to be made mandatory by July. All right, that's going to restrict interstate travel. Interstate travel, which means that you won't be able to go from Florida to Georgia without a real ID. So these things are happening. All right, this reality is being forged by the words of the Lord. And this sedition that's taking place is leading, or the riots that are taking place is leading to an even greater sedition. It says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. All right, and these, once again, are the times that we're entering into, which is why it's important, all right, to repent, you know, and to seek the Lord 10 times more while it's still time, you know, to glean and to gain faith, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding while there's still time. Seek the Lord early, like it says in Ecclesiastes 12. You know, because the times are only going to get worse. You get that in Exodus 14. In verse 16 it says, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter. For look how much the world shall be weaker through age, so much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein. All right, so the evils are only going to increase. This is just the beginning. You know, this is the beginning of sedition. All right, it says that in 2 Ezra, the 16th chapter. All right, this is the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of the sword, the beginning of death and great sorrow. All right, it's going to get even greater than this. You know, but the second article I had was here from USA Today, and it's entitled "No King's Day. Protests planned for June 14th with aim to reclaim the American flag." All right, now it says protests are planned for 1,800 communities across the country, June 14th, the same day President Donald Trump holds a military parade in Washington. It says we don't want to secede the narrative ground to Trump and MAGA that they own the flag. They own patriotism, said Indivisible co-founder Ezra Levin, one of the organizers. In fact, the most patriotic thing you can do in America is to show up peacefully and petition your government for something better. Now, these peaceful protests could very well turn violent, you know, which, Lord willing, they do. You know, but now you have a nationwide protest being scheduled, which is another form of sedition, whether it be peaceful or violent. It's another form of sedition, a concerted attempt to overthrow civil authority. All right? And these things are taking place in our day and age. And it's only going to lead to these, and these things are only going to intensify. You know, these things aren't going to get better. You know, America's not going to turn back to normal. Society's not going back to normal. This is the new normal. The degradation of society is the new normal. The loss of morale is the new normal. Civil unrest is the new normal. You know, and it's a product of that perverse spirit that the Lord mingled in the midst of this modern day Egypt, like it says in Isaiah 19. You know, but with that being said, that's all I had. You know, just want to come with that brief news and prophecy, man. These riots are going to lead to an even greater sedition. All right. Which, hey, the water Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, because this is getting the ball moving. All right. This is speeding up the days. All right. Our salvation is nearer than when we believe. All right. The Lord is moving on our behalf. Lord willing, where He like. The Lord is moving for us, brothers. For real. With that being said, shalom. Stay up.